I'm Deb James, your host and proud owner of Hills to Ocean Driver Training. So welcome. If this is your first time here, we do welcome you, and we encourage you to add any comments along the way, and I'll try and address any questions you may have. But if I do miss your questions, I will follow up and make sure I do answer those the following week. You can catch the replays. So if you've caught us in the previous weeks, this is a 8-week series and we're in week 6. And this week we're looking at not breaking the bank in driving lessons. So to give you some practical tips in how you can actually stretch a dollar. I work with a range of families. So from a broad spectrum of families, I've got families that fund their whole driving hours, their teens driving hours with me as a driving instructor. But through doing that, the students get a nice variety of driving and they're well prepared for their test, but they've missed out on that beautiful connection time that can be had. The other end of the spectrum, I've worked with students that also their case is that they don't have someone to teach them to drive. They may not have a supervisor. They may not have a parent with a license or a car, access to a car. So they have multiple barriers to getting their license. So they actually, so those students that I've encountered come through the PCYC program called Breaking the Cycle. So for them, that's a free program, and it's a brilliant program to help them get their license. Also, if you know people in your world that there's young people that don't have access to anyone to help them with their license, make sure they do just go and follow up where their local PCYC is and get them to go in and ask about the program. I'm just being very distracted here. There's 2 border collies that live on site here where we're staying, and if I don't let them in, they knock at the door. So they're here, and I know my husband's just come home as well. All right, but the families that I feel this is for, so my community here now, are the families that fall in the middle, where I believe you may have finances to do some lessons, but definitely not the whole 100 hours. And that's what we don't want. We don't want you to do that, because it's quality time that you can spend with your young person. So, and this is where I was in raising my kids. Finances were tight, but I still wanted to give them the very best. I wanted to ensure that they not only achieved their 100 hours, they not only could pass a test, but I wanted to know that they were going to be truly prepared for their days after. But when it came to teaching them to drive, I had a lot of worries around that. Did I have the right skills? Because at that time I wasn't a driving instructor. What if I taught the wrong thing? Could I accidentally mess up and teach the wrong road rule? And yeah, let's admit it, I was worried about the car. So there are a lot of concerns. So does this sound familiar to you? If it does, you're not alone. And I'm not alone here, and it's very distracting. So you're the families that are willing to invest in your young people. And I know your heart. You want to prepare them for the road. There's a lot of fears around that once they're out driving by themselves. We don't want to get that terrible phone call that something drastic has happened. So today, let's dive into some practical ways to help you maximize your value of your driving lessons, and to build confidence as you, a parent driver, driving instructor, so that you can handle the hours mostly yourself. And for you to make the most of your experience with your teen. I've got a brilliant challenge that's coming up for Christmas. So make sure you do subscribe. This challenge is not only just let's go and do some driving, but there's a lot of lot of places we go in that summer break. We've got Christmas lights to go and check out. We've got shopping to do, and there's a lot of things that can be achieved along the way. The day trips. So there'll be a weekly target and weekly emails that'll go out with your next steps of what your goal is to achieve. And I've got prizes at the end of this. So for those that have achieved the most driving, but the broadest driving. So there'll be more about that coming out. So let's not break the bank through our lessons, and let's look at ways that we can actually stretch that. So the first one I want you to think about, and some of you may have already passed this stage, but if you're starting, if your young person is just coming up to getting their prep Ls, they're working through that, they're working towards getting their learner's license, think about starting them yourself. So on the weekends, you might have industrial areas that are nice and wide, nice and quiet. There might be large parking lots like sporting fields, and that might be through the week when the sports field is not being in use. I know if you're anywhere near Bundall on the Gold Coast, opposite the race course, it's part of their overflow car park, but that's usually empty, and that's a perfect spot. So take your young person out in the car, explain, where the pedals are, where the indicators are, what the dash lights, what they all mean, how to set up your seat, and how we're going to steer, and just get them in that seat all prepared, and get them to explore, well, what does it feel like when I lift my foot from the brake without accelerating? So just really break it down into those small steps. So start the basics yourself. That's one way that you can save money. The second way, if you're going to purchase any lessons, purchase a pack of lessons. But I would suggest, if you're going with a driving school or an instructor you don't know, you haven't encountered, ask, can we do the first lesson? And explain that you're wanting to get a package and that you want your young person to be comfortable with that instructor. So just ask, give them the heads up. I want to buy a package, but can we do the first lesson? And can we discuss how, whether we get a package at the end or we just pay for this one lesson? Because if it's someone that your young person didn't connect with, well, you don't want to go and pay for a package because then they're not going to be keen. All right. So, but say like you got a pack of 10. All right. So buy the package. Then look at, and this is something also you may want to check in with the school, that do I need to use that package in a certain amount of time? So as far as my business goes, I'm happy for you to use that whole year and spread them out. So you might plan. So this is my third tip, plan your lessons. So you might plan, okay, the first 3 lessons in a 10 pack, you're going to work on your steering, your road position and lane change. So be very intentional of what you want your young person to learn, and discuss that with the driving school, the driving instructor, and get feedback. What did they learn? What do they need to work on next? So that then those 3 lessons, spread them out over 3 weeks, a fortnight, however long, as long as you're driving in between. All right, so you pick it up in between. Then the next 4 lessons, I'd spread them out maybe 1 a month or longer, just so that there's a check-in. How are they going with it? And have, again, the driving school, the driving instructor give you feedback. What are we working on? What do we need to work on next? What do we need to be aware of? And then perhaps leave the last 3 for that test readiness. But I wouldn't wait until that last week you've got your test booked and all of a sudden you're ringing the instructor and say, oh, we need those last 3 lessons. I'd get really organized and think, okay, when you book the test, it's probably going to be a good 6 weeks out. As we're coming up to that time, get in touch with your instructor and go, okay, we've got those 3. Can we do a check-in And then, you know, we want to use them to get test ready. So do it earlier than later, because you don't want to get towards the end and there's massive gap in their learning. But hopefully, if you join my program, you won't have those gaps. Okay, so that's the goal. So that's a third one. Number 4, of course, I'm going to say learn to do it yourself. So if you journey along with me, I've got workshops coming up, Facebook Live, resources. Let me know what it is that you need. Like maybe I'm not giving you, maybe it's stuff that you already know. Maybe there's other things that you want to know. So let me know. Because I tell you, so if you, 52 weeks of driving lessons, that could be almost a car for your young person. So I calculated it out to $4,160 if you had a driving lesson every week. You don't need to spend that. Okay, so of course I'm going to say learn to do it yourself. Just a few lessons as you go. So as I said, we've got our Christmas challenge coming up. So that'll be a good fun way to start over the Christmas. I think you should be able to knock out 25 hours over that Christmas break. And then in January, I've got my first workshop that will be running. I do want to know the days and times that's going to suit you best. And in that workshop, we're going to really workshop how to do commentary driving, how to model it, and how to encourage your young person to do that. Because that's really going to help. I often say to my young people, if you can speak out loud what you're doing, what you're observing, like the hazards and who you're giving way to, so you're verbally speaking that out. I always say to my young people that if you can learn to do that, that is going to help whoever's supervising you, mum, dad, auntie, uncle, whoever, because then they can hear what you're processing, that you are thinking a lot about what you're doing, and they're going to feel a lot more relaxed that you're onto it. So yeah, so that's a really important tip. So yeah, so make sure you subscribe, go to my website, so www.drivertrainingh2o.com, and you will be able to grab a free resource, and through that you'll be able to find how to subscribe. You can also subscribe through the Facebook banner as well. So yeah, so concluding today, how you're going to not break the bank. First of all, you want to start with your basics. Secondly, consider a package of lessons. Third, plan out those lessons. Fourth, do it yourself, DIY. And 5, register for the workshop. All right. Very good. So don't forget about the Christmas challenge and enjoy that journey out there with your young people. All right. It's a special time. Yes, it can be stressful, but it can be very special, because once they get their license, every parent tells me their feedback, and I know from my own experience, kids were gone. Your chance is gone. Okay. So yeah. So join us again next week. Next week we're looking at how to deal with the overwhelm of parenting and all the responsibilities that you carry, being able to put in these driving hours as well. So we're going to look at that. So stay calm, stay connected, and keep driving forward. You've got this. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same place. Bye for now.